We have a policy in our company that says just because I can take your credit card doesn't mean I should. When you own the fact that you're good at sales, you need to own the fact that you're a very powerful person. I read a PDF one time of this guy who was talking about what made cults so powerful. He was making this similarity between the word persuasion and manipulation. It's the same process, it's the same skill, and it's really in the heart of the beholder of who's delivering the message. If you're really vested in the best interests of whoever you're talking to or whoever's on the other end of that phone, that you're persuading them to a better life. If you're utilizing the skill set you've been given to sell someone a product or put them in a position that's not favorable to them and what they're trying to do, then now you're manipulating them. So we did $1,000 for, we call it VIP for the $1,000. That was the 2 days.
Yeah.
And then the platinum was 3 days. That was 2,500. So I had a private dinner on Friday night, private dinner on Saturday night. And then on Sunday, we did a whiteboard mastermind at my condo where we like brought in a whiteboard and just each person got like a 15, 20-minute hot seat in front of everyone. We just helped them with their business, whatever they wanted help with. And then we went out on the yacht on Sunday.
What kind of set the precedent that you wanted to start doing your own events? Because you've been doing, you know, you're known as the if you want your event packed out.
Things, bro.
Yeah.
I've done 95 events for other people.
That's insane.
And I think it just kind of got to a point where it was like, I shouldn't say that. I think the thing is I have a message to share. Like I spent most of my 20s on stages because I did ministry. I did a lot of stuff in my 20s. So I've spoken on a lot of stages.
Nice.
And for whatever reason, I've just kind of been the man behind the curtain for a lot of these guys. And I just feel like I have a tremendous message to share and I want to have the opportunity to do that. And, you know, I talked to my friend Dan Fleischman and he said the best way to get invited on anyone else's stage is start your own. And so I was like, all right, cool, it's time. So
did you feel a sense of like, was there a sense of fear because you were kind of behind the scenes for so long that like, what kind of goes into that mindset?
No, I don't think it was a sense of fear. I think it's a sense of, I think that fear is more like the first time you're asking someone to pay $1,000 to come hang out with you, it feels weird. You know, like it's really easy for me. I'm a really good agent. So my clients, right, our model's built on, I'm like, hey, come pay $1,000 to hang out with X person. It's easy. It's comfortable selling someone else. It's weird when you're like, hey, come pay $1,000 to hang out with me.
Yeah.
Right, for 2 days. It's different when you're selling a service to a client. You're like, hey, you're gonna pay me X and I'm gonna give you Y.
Yeah.
When it's like, hey, come pay $1,000 and hey, if you want to come to my house and have dinner, it's 2,500.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, like this, just getting the cobwebs out the first time and just getting through it. Now that it happened, we've had phenomenal testimonials. We've, you know, done very well on our back end offer.
That's awesome.
Now it's like, shit, why did I wait so long? You know?
I think it's interesting. Where did this all start for you, specifically with packing out events?
So I've been doing events for like 20 years, right? So I started doing events a long time ago to raise money. And then when I was doing ministry stuff, and then I started a co-working space. I used like BNI, Chamber of Commerce, like all those free events. Like I've just always been using events to build businesses. And then I worked for Grant Cardone, and obviously that his events are one of a kind, and learned a lot there. And then I got out of there, and I actually got into e-com, and I realized that I wasn't good at e-com, and you know I did some stores, some Amazon and Walmart stores, and those disappeared, and my investors wanted their money back, and I said, shit, what am I supposed to do? And I met with a mentor of mine, and he said, I wanted to pay them back and needed to make some money. And he said, why don't you go on Instagram and just say, hey, who has an event that I can sell at? And I did that. And now 100 events and $50 million later,
Let's go.
we've got a business. And so I never really started it with the intention of having a business. However, I started it to pay back our investors and do that process. And then what happened was we ended up building a really cool company out of it. And now, you know, we're scaling like crazy, and now we're hosting our own events. So it's pretty cool.
What was the story of you getting into ministry?
I was a troubled youth and I got some trouble, was looking at some prison time for selling drugs, as any good entrepreneur usually starts out their career.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So, and then I had the opportunity to turn my life around, and I had some guys come in my life that helped me do that. And then, they told me to make sure I'd turn around and give it away to someone else. So I started working with incarcerated youth and would go into jails, institutions, prisons, whatever. And then as people got out, I was helping them find jobs, places to live, get their life back in order. And then, and then I started basically teaching them sales. Like I didn't even know what I was doing at the time, but in hindsight, what I was doing is I'd go into incarcerated youth centers and I would basically tell the guys, like there's this scene in Blow. Do you know the movie Blow with Johnny Depp?
Yep. Yeah.
And he's in prison and the guy's like, he says he's teaching and the guy said, hey, if you teach classes, you can get out early. So he goes in there and he's like, all right, we're going to talk about George Washington. All the guys in the class are like, fuck you, like whatever. And he's like, all right. He said, how about this? How about half the time, or he's like, how about half the time I teach you about George Washington and half the time I teach you how to smuggle drugs? And the class says, you don't know shit about smuggling drugs. He goes, I just got busted with 600 pounds. And they all literally sit up. They're like, all right, it's time to learn. So I went into these kids. I said, how about half the time I teach you, how about half the time I teach you about Jesus? The other time I'll teach you how to sell. And I was like, I'll teach you how you can have a good heart. Like you already have a tremendous skill set. You've been using it for the wrong reasons. So we can have a change of heart and we can use it for good. You don't have to actually, you can make $100,000 a year and not worry about the cops knocking on your door. Who's interested in that? And even the counselors in the back were like, yeah. So I literally just sat there and taught them how to sell and like taught them how to take their street skills, have a change of heart, use them for good, and be able to make six figures.
Yeah.
So that was the ministry.
What is your background in sales? Like, how did you get into sales? Like, I've had my fair share of sales courses and sales training. Like, where did it all begin for you?
Honestly, I mean, it began kind of on the streets for us. I mean, grew up super poor. So it was kind of like I learned from a young age that if I could find more plants, like the fact that I remember the first time I found my stepdad's stash, right? And I took out like a handful, gave it to a buddy of mine. He gave me $10. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, all I gotta do is find more plants. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just remember that thought.
Yeah.
And so I was 13. So for 6 years, I was on a mission to find more plants.
Wow.
Right. And so I just figured out how to work my way up the system. And I think that's what instilled that in me. And, I think then going into ministry, like I was writing a book at one point, I should finish it. It was called Drugs, Jesus, and Websites. Same pitch, different product. And the pitch is, take this, it'll make your life better. I promise.
Huh. Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
All of those things. At the time, websites were just coming out. I ended up getting back in school after turning my life around and got a degree in web design and graphic design. And so I was building websites for people to raise money for ministries and nonprofits. And it was just kind of like, you want more money? Like, build a website. It'll make your life better. I promise. Right?
Yeah.
You want to live forever? Like, find Jesus. It'll make your life better. I promise.
Huh.
You want to be up all night? Like, take this. It'll make your life better. I promise. And I feel like that's really, I just was in that habitual motion. And then I went on to work for Dale Carnegie for a little bit. And then obviously my time with Grant. And I feel like there's that instinctual, like, I don't even know what it is. There's something instinctual about it. And I feel like tremendous books, tremendous courses out there. I feel like sometimes when I read things in the sales world, for whatever reason, wherever it comes from, I have this feeling of like, oh, that's why that works. Like I don't like read
intuitively.
Something. Yeah, I don't read it and say, oh, I got to go practice that. Oh, that's a good word track. I'm going to go read that. I feel like I read something, I'm like, oh, that's why they did the deal when I said that. And so I think that sales can be taught. However, I think the ones who really have it, there's something intuitive, instinctual about it that it's deep down in there somehow, and they just need to get better at the way they communicate it.
So like when you're looking to hire new salespeople, like what do you look for in them, like to see if?
I look for the 3 H's, right? I look for someone who's hungry, right? And I look for someone who's humble, and I look for someone that'll be a hunter, right? Because I actually prefer to work with new guys that don't even know they have the skill yet.
Yeah.
Because I don't want someone to come in with past pretense and they're going to be right. Right. They're going to tell us how it needs to be or how they did it somewhere else or how a different coach did it if there's some coaching or whatever. So I want new guys that are humble, hungry, and they have a hunter mentality, because we're an outbound sales company. We are not a preset appointment inbound company.
Yeah.
Right. Which is what a lot of the high ticket space is, which is cool because that's a good model. However, like, we want to hit the phone. We want to go find it. And we can also demand higher percentage because we're willing to do the work that nobody else will do, which is why we win big when we do that.
How did your faith get brought into, because the education business is a very tricky business, I'd say. You got a lot of bad actors. You got a lot of people that are selling, not, they're just, there's good and there's bad. So how do you feel like you've brought what you've learned through your childhood, through the good, the bad, to where now you've competitively set yourself apart in the market? How do you feel like those aspects of your life have brought that forward for you?
I think that we have a policy in our company that says just because I can take your credit card doesn't mean I should. And I think there's just an ethical standard to it. I think when you own the fact that you're good at sales, you need to own the fact that you're a very powerful person. And I watched I read a PDF one time of this guy. He was talking about cults and he was talking about what made cults so powerful. And he was making this similarity between the word persuasion and manipulation, that it's the same act, it's the same process, it's the same skill, and it's really in the heart of the beholder of who's delivering the message. That if you're really vested in the best interests of whoever you're talking to or whoever's on the other end of that phone, that you're persuading them to a better life. If you're utilizing the skill set you've been given to sell someone a product or put them in a position that's not favorable to them and what they're trying to do, that now you're manipulating them. Same exact conversation, just the heart of the rep. And so I think one of the biggest things is just bringing like an integrous, ethical standard to the guys that we hire, and reiterating to my clients that, because a lot of clients, the scariest thing about a client handing their company off to a third party sales team is they have no control over what's going to happen on the phone. Right. So they're scared of that. So really reiterating that on the front end, that we're going to honor you. Like, my biggest responsibility is making sure your brand is protected. Because even if we're on an outbound campaign, right, we might do 50,000 dials on your campaign and we might sell 1,000 tickets, right? Well, that's 49,000 other people that we talked to that we didn't sell anything to. And we need to be a good representation of who you are and your brand. And so every call has got to be focused on, is it the right product? Can this person afford it? And are we the kind of business that they want to be associated with? And are they the kind of people we want to be associated with? Because maybe it's the right product and they can afford it, and there's no way we want that guy at our event. So I think really grading through those three filters has been a way to focus on bringing transformation to humans, however, making sure it's done in an ethical standard that makes sure everybody wins.
Where did your passion for transportation come from? Because obviously I see your story, every morning you're looking at
bro, I watch it float by every day. You guys should come check it out. It's beautiful. Yeah. Maybe you guys just come over to the house and see.
Absolutely.
I would appreciate actually that, because it'd be cool to look at this. So, but
if you have time tomorrow, we can
maybe sometime we can meet up
between like 1 and 6 tomorrow. We could probably
that'd be cool. But bro, it's beautiful. So I live right on the water, and so the shipping containers float right by. Literally, they shake the shit out of the condo, so they float right by here where you guys are, right here through this river. If it was floating by right now, you could literally feel it. Like, that's how powerful these machines are, right?
It's cool.
And I love America. I love commerce, and I love my dad, right? And so my dad was a truck driver. He's no longer with us. However, when he was alive, he told me, there was 2 things I was never allowed to do. One was join the military, and 2 was get my CDL. So he was a Vietnam vet, and he drove truck, and he said, "Son, you belong in an office. You know, you don't do those 2 things." So, but my father just never really had much. So he drove semi his entire life, and then passed away from cancer he got from the war. So like, it was hard to watch someone who like cared about the country and cared about his craft. However, he never had the ability to put his name on anything. He was always an employee working for somebody else. And so I own randtransport.com and Rand Transport LLC. And so it's my intention at some point to have my dad's name float by me or drive by me on a semi. So it'll either be on a semi or be on the side of a shipping container. So every morning I wake up and I watch last names literally float by me. Like I wake up to the vibration of the shipping containers going by and the big barges.
That's so cool.
And I watch other people's last names float by me and I'm like, why not mine? So I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it.
That kind of hyped me up a little bit.
Yeah, that just ran through.
And like America runs on that shit. I mean, that stuff was in China 2 weeks ago, and that's what runs our country, you know? So the fact that it's cool too to look at, I wake up every morning and all I see, and at night, because it's all lit up, is like the whole port. I mean, we're talking about trillions of dollars of product run through there every year, and it fuels our entire country. So it's really just, I don't know what it is. It's inspiring to me, and I want to see my name flow by.
So you have this skill set that now you've casted out this massive vision, but your skill set is entirely, we were talking about this off the show, is entirely people related. And I think being in service, like the service industry, what we do, it's like one of my favorite things because you're able to really know humans and you're able to really understand them, but you're also able to serve them in a way that is like really fulfilling. We were talking back, I heard you talking to Derek backstage, and it was one really cool moment because you were talking to Derek about how you wanted to grow the company, but it wasn't for your own sake. Mm-hmm. You said, I want to really like these guys that have trusted me to be able to, you know, further their life and better their life.
Yeah.
I want to give them even more opportunity. I want them to be able to make 200 grand, 300 grand with working with me. So how are you kind of setting that up? But also, what is the dynamic of managing people like that?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think the biggest thing for me is there was a manager I had once. His name was Todd. And he had us write our goals down every day. And I asked him why he never told us what his were. And he said, because if I can help you guys all accomplish your goals, I'll far surpass mine. And I think that, yeah. So I think that like, I want to know it's important to my guys. Like I want a room full of guys making, you know, right now I just hired a new sales director and I said, I want 10 guys in here making 10K a month. Like make it happen. That's your first objective. Like you'll get a bonus when I write 10 checks for 10K in a single month, because I have guys making that, but I have a couple, right?
Yeah.
And I'm busy running the show and I've done everything. And so it's kind of like, now your sole focus is find me 10 humans and do this. I'll go find there's more than enough projects right now. We have far more demand than I have humans to fulfill. And so part of that is getting to the point where putting my guys in a position to win, because some of these guys, like we've kind of ate shit at the bottom, selling tickets, doing what everyone else didn't want to do. So for the last 3 years, I've let a lot of other guys win all these high ticket deals. And literally most of my clients call me and they have a high ticket sales team. And they say, we want you to sell tickets. And I say, why don't your team sell tickets? They say, why would I have my team sell a $200 ticket when they're selling a $2,000 coaching program or a $20,000 coaching program? So I'm like, all right, fine. Like, I guess I'll do the dirty work while your guys get to eat. Well, we did enough dirty work that now my guys get to leapfrog and they get to really eat. And I want to reward those guys who stuck with me through those times because we played a long game and we're on that cusp of where it's really starting to pay off for us.
Yeah. How many salespeople do you have under you currently?
Right now we have 10 stateside, and then we also have some setters overseas as well. Cool.
And like, so I've had some experience in like outbound sales before. Do you see like a high turnaround? Like you're having to hire sales guys, often you're losing people, and what do you do to combat that? Like try to keep them with you?
Yeah. So our model's been it's changed a few times. And so what I was doing the last 2 years was traveling the country, and I'd go move to a city, and then we would fill a big house, a big Airbnb. We'd recruit locally, and then we'd fill up the house, and then sell out an arena, and then we'd literally move to the next city, and then do it again and again and again. So I was building a new team every 3 months in a new city, like basically doing like solar blitzes.
Yeah.
And a few of the guys would come with us, but most of the guys were local. And it was just kind of a fun 3-month sprint to be part of like a fraternity.
Yeah.
And then we would just like fill up the arena, pack up, move to the next city, and keep going. Now that I'm back in Miami, this is home, and I'm going to build a call center here. I'm more focused on hiring, right? And because I've let go of most of my virtual guys because I want that sales floor mentality. And so I haven't really brought a lot of those guys with. I think the biggest thing is, back to the last point, like the vision's got to be big enough for them to be able to see their own vision being accomplished inside. And outbound ticket sales is a hard game. It's hard, and there's not a lot of money in it. So the guys that have stuck with me to get to the point where we're really about to pop off, they've been more bought into the vision than they were into filling their bank accounts currently. And they're going to be rewarded for that.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned like you like to hire people that you can train. So what does it look like to hire someone for 3 months, and like you got to train them probably in what, like a week, 2 weeks? Like, what does that look like?
Bro, I give people leads. Basically what I do is I say, we have an onboarding and training process, and it's pretty in depth with me, with pre-recorded content, and also I role play with my team every morning. I lead the sales morning meeting. So we spend a half hour together role playing, and me teaching, and then we role play, and then etc. However, basically what I would do when I would go to these cities is my recruiting was simple. We were calling all these people that were inbound leads that wanted to come to the event. They had interest in coming to the event, right? And so they had interest coming to the event. They couldn't afford a ticket, but they sounded good on the phones. And I said, why don't you come earn a ticket? And I would invite them to the house. And I said, if you sell a ticket, I'll give you a free ticket, and you can have a job for the next 90 days. Damn. So I was literally getting a bunch of broke guys to show up that had no money, right? Which meant they had to show up, right? What else were they going to do?
Right.
And I offered them a catalyst. And the top guy we ever had, he was 18 years old, and he made $11,000. He went from $50 in his bank account to $11,000 in 2 months. And he was a broke guy on the phone that couldn't afford a ticket that we brought into the house, and then he crushed it.
That's so cool.
Chills again. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it was cool. So that was kind of our recruiting on the road. Honestly, I'm struggling a little bit on the Miami thing because like living and having an office in Brickell is hard.
Yeah.
To find sales guys that are entry level that will be able to afford to live, right? So it's hard, but I'm committed to figuring it out.
And I think just hearing your story and what I know, you have chosen the path least traveled, and it's paid dividends every single time.
The hardest shit though.
Yeah.
Some days I wake up, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I could probably be making more if I just went and, like, that's what's hard, right? It's like, I'm like, dude, I could probably make more if I just went and found a really good coach and just sold by myself, and it'd be way fucking less stressful.
Yeah.
It would just not really have a lot of purpose. And so I think, look, the reality is I choose events because events changed my life, and I want to help people feel that same impact, which is why I get so passionate about what it is. As long as I believe in the speaker, I believe in the mission they're on, and I believe in the pricing they've put on the tickets. Like, I know that events have radically changed my life, and it's, to me, when I'm on the phone with someone, it's not about the speaker or the people on the flyer. The people on the flyer are just a lead gen tool. No one's buying a ticket to see any speaker anymore. Like, I can tell you right now,
why do you think that is?
Because I think they're motivationed out. Like, I think that people are coming to events your life's not, it's going to be hard to have an impacted life by an hour talk by somebody. However, because most of the guys that you're going to see, their best shit is already on YouTube or on Instagram.
Very true.
Like, the best talk that, I'm not going to say any names, the best talk that X A-list speaker has done,
We could bleep it out.
has been edited. It's on YouTube, you've already watched it 5 times, cried, done the emotional thing. The reason people attend events, I believe, is for the community of people are going to meet there. The potential, like last time you bought a ticket to an event, right? You thought, man, who am I going to meet to bring on my podcast? I'm going to, you know what I'm saying? You're not like, oh, I can't wait to go see X speak. And I think that most people are there. And I think the biggest thing that people are afraid of is going alone. And so a lot of times what we do is like, I try to teach people how to get ROI out of events. Because you're going to get you're going to buy a ticket from me for $2,000. I want you to come back from that event with 50 grand in business. And a lot of people don't, or they're afraid to walk up to strangers or whatever else. So a lot of times we'll teach them like, hey, wear a shirt that says, you know, ask me about mortgages, or ask me, you know, I'd love to have you on my podcast. Ask me how, right? If you went to an event, the 3 of you or join my, or want to be on my podcast, and that was all the shirt said, you're gonna have people walking up to you. So how can you get you to an event and create inbound traffic? So when I'm on the phone with somebody and they're teeter-tottering over buying a ticket because they don't know if it'll be worth their time, money, etc., I'm trying to help them create mentally a picture where they would be able to, you know, create inbound traffic at the event so they can make sure the ROI is guaranteed.
It's funny. That an event changed our business. Like we went to an event. We actually were lucky enough to get a free event because we were going to shoot the event. But me and my business partner at the time.
Is this for me, by the way?
That's all you, man.
That's perfect.
Uh,
Do you have a sparkling one, or are they both regular?
they're both regular.
All right, cool. No worries.
But we went every single booth and we just told people what we did. And it eventually ended up, you know, being one of our first big tickets out in Las Vegas. Flew out there, met a bunch of people, and that's what ended up catapulting our business. But it is really true to you get what you can get out of those events, what you put into it, but it really does take you being pretty shameless to go up to anybody and everybody and just tell them what you do. Like just start that conversation.
Well, it also helps if you put the word event on your chest, right? Like everybody's like, what about events? I'm like, tell me about yours, right? And then I can frame my next sentence based on whatever comes out of their mouth. So I think, you know, my friend, and I got that from my friend Andrew, actually, Andrew Loringer, who owns The Move. He was doing podcasts before The Move has exploded for his or he was doing mortgages. And he has a shirt that says, ask me about mortgages. And we'll literally be in Brickell City Center and like 5 people will ask him, what are the rates today? Like, is now a good time to buy or whatever? Like all he has to do is wear that shirt and go in public, and he's like making more money than the guy sitting behind his computer trying to run ads. And so I think if you guys just had, it said podcast in big letters, like want to be on my podcast, ? Like just do that, go to these events. Like you guys would have more. And like, oh, tell me about your podcast. Oh, would you like to start one? Yes. Okay, cool. It's 10 grand. We'll teach you how to build a podcast. Like, so I'm always just thinking like, how can I, through a t-shirt, how can I create inbound traffic?
The difference in terms of you selling through paid ads and doing what you do on a front end for your clients versus how you personally acquire your clients, what's the difference there?
That's a good question. I haven't really done ads at all. So we've run like, I think we've spent like 10K in ads total since we started a business. So ads are a new thing to me and I'm trying to figure those out. The biggest thing for us though is, look, most of our clientele is, you know, our usual scenario is this, right? Our usual scenario is this. They overpaid on a venue. They overpaid on a stage. They overpaid. Now they have a room block, right? They need 500 people minimum or they're going to get raked over the coals by their room block. They've paid way too much for A-list speakers that they should have never had anyways. And then they hire someone on Fiverr to design a flyer. And then they post the flyer and they sell 10 tickets and they go, oh shit. I'm 2 million in and I've got 10 tickets sold and I don't know what to do. And then they call my friends in the industry and they say, hey, what do I do? And they say, Brian Rand will help you. And then I get put in a group chat. That's literally 100% of my business comes from group chats.
That's sick. That's sick. Awesome. That's
so
that's a good product.
We've become the guys that save everyone else, right? That make really terrible decisions. And so it'd be awesome if we got called on the front end to help them not make such bad financial decisions. However, it also creates a demand for our products because then we're basically like event insurance, right? We're the guys who can come in and you've overpaid and you made some bad decisions and the money's been wired, so you're not getting it back. So what's the best possible way to protect your investment is to bring us in to make sure your event is full and profitable.
Why do you think most people over leverage themselves in events like that? Because they just don't
They
know.
have no idea what they're doing, and they want to build it. They see other people doing it, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to host an event." Like for us, my first event, the guy who sells out arenas, my first event was 30 people, right? And I'm going to 20x my investment on my first event. Most people lose massively on their first event. I'm going to 20x my investment, and so because I've watched so many people, even aiming for 200 on your first event is like, you've got to pay 20 grand for a hotel room. You've got to pay 10 grand for AV. You need lights. You need food for 200 people at $20 a plate for lunch and dinner. Like you're talking like 15 grand for food. Like we're already up to 50K and we haven't even put ads up yet. So I think most people just have no idea what they're doing, and they want the ego boost of hosting an event. They have no idea how expensive it is. And there's a lot of ways to strategically make sure those costs aren't as high. And people just, if you haven't been in it, you just don't even know that. And you're just going to take whatever the hotel tells you is going to cost. And you're going to agree to a room block. Cause you're like, yeah, there's going to be 500 people going to want to come hang out with me. And the room blocks are always strategic. Like the hotels aren't stupid. So hotel blocks usually are about 2 to 3 weeks out from the event. And if, let's say we get 200 rooms in a hotel block, right? At $200 a night. Well, hotels will say any room that isn't booked 2 weeks out from your event or 3 weeks out from your event is going to cost you that $200. You're going to have to just get one lump check or one lump bill for any room you didn't book out. And we get to now resell that room to the general public at our full price. So they get paid double. Like it literally makes no sense to me. Hotels also know, because they know the data, that most people buy their tickets in the last 2 weeks. So they're literally setting you up for failure. You have no idea how many events we've been on that people are freaking the fuck out because their hotel room block's about to come in. And like I've seen people get $200,000 bills from the hotel. And then the same people that would have bought the room literally go and buy it from the hotel. And now the hotel got the fine from you plus the hotel room from the guests anyways.
It's a racket.
It's a total racket. And people fall for it all the time, but they assume they're going to sell 500 rooms. And so they just sign the contract thinking, of course, 500 people are coming, not even realizing that most of those 500 will come. They're just going to book their hotel room 5 days out. And you're going to be on the hook to pay for that room twice.
It's interesting though, because what you're saying about the talent aspect of it really not being a pull anymore. Do you think that's changed monumentally because of social media? Just because of the access to people?
Because access to people.
Yeah.
Like I could pay 10 grand to go backstage and meet X celebrity, or I could just send a really creative DM and talk to him in his DMs for free. Like you didn't have that before, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like how good are you? The DMs is obviously where a lot of people are able to get that first introduction for pretty much anybody you want to talk to.
Yeah.
If you're persistent.
I mean, the fact that persistent enough, not a creep, and like you're creative with your words. Also, I mean, it's like when you're trying to get in front of a prospect, like Instagram has limited the DM to one message, right?
Yeah.
However, you can reply to unlimited stories. So as long as like you're just like creative, because also people look at their stories more. People scroll through their stories more than they scroll through their requests.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're dropping fire emojis and you're dropping that stuff, that'll be popping up more than the lost requests would be in your request folder. So yeah, as long as you got a creative strategy and you're committed to follow up.
Yeah.
Then I think, it gives you access. And I think going back to the deal, look, I love my celebrity clients. I love filling their events. I just think that I'm not saying there's anything wrong with what they're trying to do. Because again, it's a lead gen tool. Mm-hmm. If you have the money to do it, it's good. You just have to realize you're going to have to pay them 200 grand to speak at your event. And you're going to have to spend 200 grand in ads with their face on the flyer to get leads. And most of those tickets are going to come from, then you got to pay a sales guy to convert the sale over the phone. You got to pay the commission there. So it's very expensive when you're doing a large scale event with big names. And as long as you can front the cost because you know you can make it up on the back end with a good offer, that's fine. Most people they don't do all the math beforehand.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. So really, events for the most part, you're not going to turn a profit up front.
Most people, I tell people, if we can get to the event and break even, and you have a solid offer that actually helps people, then you're going to be fine. If you don't have a good offer and you don't have good fulfillment, don't do any event.
Do you have any horror stories? Like people just like real, like without naming names,
Yeah,
obviously.
I have an event. We sold out an event, fulfilled it, sold the offer, and that person didn't fulfill in the offer and ended up getting, I think everybody that bought something charged back. So
Damn.
yeah, and I had every intention, and he told me before the event he had every intention to fulfill. It just didn't happen. So that's also, it's hard when I'm putting my trust in whoever the brand is that we're representing that they're going to fulfill, because it's on us too, because we're the ones who took the credit cards. So that's a risk that we do, and you just have to get better at asking more questions up front. And also, I try not to sell anything that is the first run. I want to see that people they've paid for it, they've won on it, they're raving fans about it. And then that gives me more confidence to stand in front of someone and take their credit card for 20, 30K.
So to pivot the conversation, because I think this is really cool. I love to see like a total person when it comes to the business, because I feel like business, I see your story, you're pretty much 14, 15 hours a day, like really hammering it. But you have this passion for cycling, which is sick. And you just did some like a ride across
500 miles. Yeah.
Damn.
With your mom, right?
Yeah. And actually back here, I don't know if you can see it.
I don't think you're gonna.
Where's the hole?
Right here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that bridge back there. That's literally, so I did a 500 miles and I went up in the mountains, and that bridge back there is the only place in Miami that I can train. So, because it's the only elevated of anything. So I literally just sit and go back and forth over that fucking bridge all day long. And it's miserable. And it's super fun. So yeah, I love it. I actually started riding during COVID. So I lived on the Venetian Islands and during COVID, or like right at the beginning of them. I know when COVID was happening, and we're even allowed to say that word. I don't know.
Yeah,
the virus. Yeah. Don't want to get you canceled. So anyways, during that time, I was watching people, and I had asthma, and they made it seem like, oh, if you have asthma, if you go outside, you're going to die, you know? And I remember just like, didn't leave my condo for like 35 days straight. I was getting everything delivered by Amazon. I was wiping it all off with wet, the like clean wipes out in the hallway and I remember because so many people were outside working out that was the beauty of Miami, is that they were like, Miami was kind of like, I don't believe it, I'm going to go outside and just work out. So I see people out there every day riding bikes. And I don't know, I hadn't ridden a bike since I was young. And I remember I went to the bike shop. I was like, all right, I'm going to go to bike. I'm going to pay $1,500 max that's what I'm going to spend. So I go to the bike shop, and it's middle of COVID, middle of summer. It's like fucking 700 degrees outside. And I get to the bike shop, and they're allowing one person at a time in the entire bike shop. There's a line of like 20 people in line. And I think I waited out there I got a sunburn. I waited out there for like 3 hours. I'm just scorching, and we're all sweating, and we're all miserable. And we all have a mask on because you had to need a mask to wait in line.
Jeez.
And I get inside, and I think I was just so upset by that. I was like, just give me the best thing. I think I spent like $6,000.
It's easy to do with bikes.
Way more than I expected. And I remember that night I went out and did like a 30-mile bike ride, and I was just, from the first second, I was addicted. And I've been riding ever since. And now I travel with my mom. That's one of the things we do. So she also cycles. And so, yeah, we get to travel around the country and cycle together. We do rides up in the mountains. We're doing one in Moab, which is a really cool ride in the Utah mountains.
Yeah.
We just did a 100-mile ride in South Dakota in the mountains. And then we do have an annual ride. It's a 500 miles across Iowa. And it's really just, for me, it's therapeutic. It's where I find my best ideas. And it's how I connect with my mom. So it's just kind of a thing we do together. We just get out and ride together.
Do you think that like health and wellness and like hard physical training like that, like if Do you think that correlates to like success, whether it be your success or anyone?
Yeah, I really do. I really do. And I think, and I go back and forth. Like sometimes I'll like lift weights and get big, and then
Yeah.
I'll be like, no, I want to.
Yep.
I was in Utah and I was massive. Dude.
Yeah.
I look at myself in Utah and I'm like, what the heck was I doing? You know, because that's all you did. It's snowing outside every day, so you just go lift weights all day. You come to Miami and it's like, no, I want to do abs and like ride my bike, and be skinny. You know, like so that my body has changed. However, the one thing that's remained the same is there's always some kind of physical fitness there.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that part for sure. And I think that getting it done early in the morning, and there's nothing better than watching the sunrise on the bike when you're on the island, you know, over there. And there's Key Biscayne is where, so you go over there in the morning or on Venetian where I started or over here, there'll be hundreds of bikers every morning. And you're just like, how can you not be inspired by seeing people up before the sun getting the sweat on?
Yeah. I mean, I think like if you see like cities like Miami, New York, where there's like ultra successful people, I feel like there's also the highest level of like fitness. Like you wake up in the morning, there's like, you have the party life here, same thing in every other city. But if you wake up in the morning, you also see the people up at like 5 a.m. that are running 30 miles before work.
I know,
and things like that. And do you like tell your team to like go for aspirations outside of that? Like
100%. We had it like when we were traveling, I would wake the entire team. I would just turn on like Good Morning by Kanye on like volume 100
Yep.
at
That's sick.
6:55 a.m. and say, bus leaves at 7.
let's go.
And everyone's like groggy, walking in the kitchen. We're all taking a pre-workout. By 7:10, we're just like, in the gym, like ready to go. And it was the way, right? And so now I don't have as much demand on them because it was easier when we all lived together and it was like, hey, everybody out of bed, let's go. But I think for the most part, everyone on the team knows it's important. So even like getting out and walking around Key Biscayne, Brickell Key, which is right here behind us. That's a 3-mile walk from our condo. So I'm just like, all right, cool. If I don't have time for the gym, I'm just going to come do a quick lap around there. And now I got my 3 miles in. I can't, you can't require your staff to do it.
Yeah.
However, if you're not about benefiting your life in every area, health, wealth, relationships, happiness, all of it, spirituality, then you're probably not a good fit to be on our team.
I think we feel the
we feel the same way.
Yeah.
We're a much smaller team. We're all like kind of childhood friends and stuff like that. So I do. I feel.
So you guys all grew up in Naples together?
So
Yeah, so we all grew up in, like, Ryan's from New Jersey, I'm from New York. He's from
my whole family's from Philly.
we all
Oh, cool.
we met down.
Wow, so Northeast.
Yeah, we met
yeah.
down in we went to Florida Gulf Coast over
Okay.
in Fort Myers. And that's kind of how this all started. We were all in a fraternity together.
Oh, sick.
And then Jamie and Jace and Ryan, they created the business out of there, and I joined last. So, but it's been great.
Cool. What's the biggest thing you've learned since joining the team from these guys?
It's a good question. I came from, like I said, a more of a sales background. Like I was in logistics, so hard, cold outreach, just 200-300 calls a day.
Or transport over the road?
Yep,
Or,
on the road. Yep, 18-wheelers. Scotland. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
No, I don't.
Okay. So I think the biggest thing that I learned is like, I just realized that I wasn't happy, man, with what I was doing. It's hard to see it when you're in it. And then once, I came over, like Jamie just called me one day and he was like, it's time. Like, you come
Like chilling
over.
in shorts and a tee with the Miami construction.
Exactly.
You're like,
Right. Now
you know
this is
what?
awesome.
I just want to go lay on the sand today for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Hard to
He
do when
never
you got
let me do that,
300.
unfortunately. But,
It's cool though. It's cool to have that freedom and
yeah.
chill,
It is super cool. And it allows us to like really go after our passions now,
Yeah.
right? Instead of like, I feel more like myself. I'm able to be myself and do the things that I want to do instead of, you get it in sales, like you're in the office 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's tough to live a life outside of that and to pursue like your passions and your dreams. Like now we're able to run these ultra marathons and like we're traveling to new places that I've never thought I'd go to or been to. So it's been awesome.
Yeah. And my sales director, I just hired, he's actually doing a full Ironman in
sick.
2 weeks.
That's awesome.
So it's like if the leader, like that inspired me. I was like, okay, cool. Like he lives a ways away. And he's like, some days I'm just going to ride my bike to work. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Damn, bro, I'm riding my scooter half of a mile, and he's riding his bike 40 miles to come to work every day.
Yeah.
Like, it's if you have those guys leading from the front as you bring people in, like you just create that ethical standard, you know?
Yeah.
That, hey, like this is it. And so I think that look, challenging yourself at a level every day. One of my friends the other day, I walked in his condo and he had like a circle. It was really cool. And he had it broken up into like 7 pieces. And there was one for him and one for his girlfriend. And every Sunday night they walk through and they grade themselves on 1 to 10 on where they are on each of these things. So they do personal relationships, they do business relationships, they do financial, they do mental, they do spiritual. And they had a long list. And he said, yeah, every Sunday night, regardless of where we're at in the world, if we're not together, we do it on Zoom. We just go through and we grade our week on where are we mentally, where are we spiritually, where are we. And I thought that was really cool because I feel like, you know, just like in sales, when I find a new piece of data to inspect, all of a sudden it rises.
Yeah.
When I take time to reflect, and whenever I take time to look at my numbers, the data always improves because you're focusing on it. And I think if you're focusing on those key elements and really building a system for yourself to do that, there's only room for them to grow because that's what you're thinking about now.
Yeah.
And so I think, you know, to your point, like it's not just physical, it's not just sales, it's a well-rounded approach. And just being able to have the ability to be around guys that give you the freedom to do it. However, just even you saying he would never let me do that, that's awesome because there's a respect there that's like, hey, we're here to do our job.
Yeah.
However, us doing our job is going to make us better humans.
Yeah. I think what we got is the perfect team. Like the 4 of us, it's small. Everybody's got
If you could hire one more person, what role would it be right now? Don't look at him. Just you, in your opinion in the business, what's the one role that you would hire if you owned it?
Distribution.
What do you mean by that?
We post 500 pieces of content a month.
Yeah.
And we manage.
It's all posted by you guys? Or?
Yeah,
Yep.
we manage
This guy right here.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. That's impressive, dude. I'm struggling to do a reel a week right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it gets very repetitive. I mean, but to the point you made earlier is like people is your product. That's our product.
However, how much of that is like, are you guys tracking that in data?
Yeah.
So does every post go in a spreadsheet and you know how many likes, comments, views, so?
We base it off weekly performance, and we're actually getting down to, we're focusing a lot more on podcast management and like long form management. So now we do it based on episode blocks. So an episode will get posted and then we'll rate the performance of the episode itself. The YouTube suggested, like we go deep into YouTube data and then we base our short form performance based on how well did it drive to our long form performance. And so now we base it on chunks, but before it was weekly or it's like weekly and monthly.
Is podcast, let me think of the question. The value of podcasts right now, in your opinion, is it more valuable for the long form YouTube or the short form on Reels?
It's honestly, I think it's three. First of all, if you're good at speaking, podcasting is the best format for getting massive amounts of content.
Yeah.
It is the best lead gen. If you're wanting to like just get an intro with somebody, you want to meet somebody, like invite them on your podcast. And then in terms of the long form, I think that is where you get like really like people that are doing well in short form, all they desire, like a guy like Derek, who we manage, all people have wanted is to consume more of his stuff.
Yeah.
So then giving them in a vehicle where you can consume them for 2 hours, they become your friend. And that's what I think podcast is the best vehicle for. You can.
So do you use Instagram stories, Reels, posts to then drive to the YouTube channel?
Exactly. Yep.
How do you link it over there? You just tell them to find the link in the bio?
You could see like soft CTAs. You could do in the captions. You could do it at the end of the video. Like at the end when the clip ends, like a picture will come up, be like Apple, all the platforms that it's on.
And then like sometimes I'll see PBD. He'll be like, "Hey, podcast drops in 10 minutes."
Yep.
So they'll be leveraging their platform to like do a launch. Basically, is that pretty common for?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like doing premieres and stuff like that. Like that's huge. It all just depends. I think if you're putting out a weekly show, really like, again, we have episode packages. So it's like your shorts, that drive, like that's where the most engagement in terms of your external link clicks, at least on Instagram specifically. And then shorts do really, really well on YouTube because you can backlink them. So you can backlink a short that drives right back to the long form. So
are you talking about Derek Fay?
Yeah.
So Derek's done a lot of reels, and it's impressive what he's built. Is his content, is it more valuable, you think? Like if I go, like for example, in the sales training side, and I'm trying to figure this out. So, because like a lot of people have encouraged me to teach more, to make more education. And I don't know how to do that. I do it for my team every day. I'm not like, okay, cool. Like, let me go grab my phone and like, here's how you overcome the spouse objection.
Yeah.
And like, hold on. It's just, it doesn't feel natural to me. And I don't want it to come across as scripted, or I want to be a real and authentic. Because when I'm with my team, and like a lot of times I'll role play something out, we'll record it, then I'll go back and explain why I did what I did. And I don't know if maybe that's a form of I could do.
That's
right?
that's long form content.
That would be a cool, and it could be a cool, like it'd be cool to like review myself almost and be like, you know how people do the reaction videos?
Yep.
And it's so funny because my friend Eric Spofford, he did a video like calling out men who do reaction videos. I think that's because he had one made about him and he was upset, but love you, Eric. And but I was like, wonder if I could do that through that, and like my reaction would be like, okay, cool. This is why I said that, or this is why I did whatever. I'm trying to figure that out. So that content is seemingly different than a podcast content. So which one do you find gets better engagement and drives business? Would it be the
Podcasting
clips?
In terms of driving business, long form. Long form is where people like long form, meaning what you're talking about, which is just like looms or that type of stuff.
I'm talking more about reels. I'm not even thinking long form right now. I'm thinking just straight. And then maybe I'm looking at it wrong, because maybe what I need to do is just start my podcast and start talking, and then that becomes
that's
my short-term content I'm looking for.
Short form, in my opinion, is not something to optimize for, in my opinion, because the same amount of energy that it takes to optimize for short form, if you put that into long form, you're going to get a 10x return. Way more, like your energy put into long form will give you way more back. And then like talking with podcasting, you're able to have you're able to piggyback off of a lot of audiences because of that. And like, that's where people kind of find you. And then if in your scenario, if you have other long form kind of behind that, which is what you're talking about with your sales team, and you give people, it's called the grocery store. Like you give people just plenty of content to consume and pick what they want and pick what they like and don't like. That's where I've seen the most success. But again, we were predominantly a short form agency 2 years ago. And I just got to like the shelf life of a reel is like, a day, 2 days. And it doesn't really, Derek is an outlier. Like he's had, 20 million hits and stuff like that. And people will recognize him based on a reel. That is few and far between. Like making that type of impact on somebody in 60 seconds. Like what you want that 60 seconds to do is create enough curiosity to then click on your profile and then fall into the grocery store. That's you want to lead them into the grocery store. Your short form is literally just your sign outside.
And I feel personally like my Instagram has kind of been like a highlight reel. Like look at my accolades, and it's not that I'm trying to be.
That's good for Instagram though.
It's good for Instagram, but it's not like, I just don't think that the true virtue of who I am as a person comes out across in it, because it's kind of like, man, this guy just talks about how he wins a lot. It's like, no, man, we're doing I just like to share that we're doing really cool shit. Yeah. And I think the big thing for me is I want to give more of who I am as a person. And so people get a better chance to meet me as a human, not just the sales guy. And the interesting part is they're like, if the accolades are just the sales numbers we've hit, and that's all that people see, they've literally never heard me close the deal, because I've never posted any content of me teaching sales, talking about sales. It's kind of this mysterious, like, is he actually really good at like what's his secret? Because we don't know. All we see is that another $5 million weekend, and we've never even heard him close a deal. So I just want more cohesiveness across my brand message, that it all makes sense. So, and that's the part that, and because I don't have that strategy, or I don't have it figured out, it basically, I feel like it blanks me from doing anything.
Yep, I know exactly what you mean.
Not a good solution either. So one thing a guy told me the other day, he said, you should practice consistency first and figure out the strategy later.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I still haven't done anything. And so, but like, he's like, you should post every day and then don't worry about the data as much as worry about the consistency, and you can focus on the data and everything later.
Yep.
I think in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't want to fuck up my algorithm. And it's like, what algorithm? Like, I don't have one because I'm not doing anything.
Consistency.
You know?
I think it's consistency. And then obviously having a per platform strategy just comes with time. But I always say if I have one big boulder, which in my mind is a podcast, if I can just, like, we have a vision of creating a network of shows, right? And and a network of podcasts and stuff like that. That's my goal. And then I just backfill from there. It's like, well, I want to create the best podcast I possibly can. And I've now aligned that strategy specifically with how we make money as a company. So that's really, but that only came from us doing 30 podcasts and talking to a bunch of people. And then I finally was like, he came to me and sat me down. He's like, if we want to actually grow this thing, this needs to be the strategy. And I was like, 100%. But it was that consistency first that allowed us to actually know what we like and what we don't like. And then, you know, the data will tell you eventually. Like, but you have to have a good subset of data for short form to be able to tell, because there's so many intricate like variables that change each short form that you put out. So it's like trying to assimilate all those together doesn't really, it's hard to do in a lot of cases.
And I think too is like, you got to do it because you love it. Like if you, every time you record a podcast, like if you're just staring at the numbers all the time, like you'll burn yourself out immediately. Like it's got to be.
Well, that's what I do want to do it. And I do love it. I mean, that's the entirety of my business is connecting with humans.
Right.
Oh,
So it doesn't, and
so
like literally
good at it.
everyone's like, dude, do a podcast. I'm like, I love that you want me to do a podcast. However, I need to hit the fucking phones today because I have an event next week and they're 100 tickets short. And I'm just constantly under pressure to perform for my clients. I don't like being in my office 15 hours a week.
Have to.
I just am a psycho that chooses to pick the most under pressure job, which is people freaking out about their ticket numbers. And so now that I've hired someone to absorb that for me, now I can come out and do things like my team is, my phone's blown up with tickets we're selling while I'm sitting here. And like, that's the best feeling. in the
Great
world.
feeling.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
Well, dude,
Can I get my phone?
Yeah.
By the way, thanks.
I really appreciate,
Let me get my phone for, if I can get my phone and then we'll wrap it up. You guys
Sure.
can
Perfect.
talk
Yeah. Go ahead. But so I guess the last thing I would ask is, you know, the show's called Piece of Grit. So how has grit shown up in your life?
I think, here you go. I'll take it quick. I just want to get some BTS.
Hell yeah.
So I think the place where grit shown up the most in my life has been just by not giving up. Like I grew up poor. I grew up troublesome. I got in trouble. I was going to prison, got sober. My house burned down. I took my insurance check. I bought a company in Los Angeles. And then my dad gets sick with cancer. So I moved back to South Dakota to take care of him, build a co-working space. My co-working space, a building collapses, kills somebody of my partner's business. So like we lose the business. Then my dad dies. And I find Grant Cardone. I move to Miami. I work for Grant, pay off all my debt, leave Grant, start selling Amazon stores. All my Amazon stores disappear. I owe investors $500,000. I'm broke again. Start a business and build it up. And it's just like, holy fuck, dude. Like how many times do I got to go back to zero?
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, what is it about my life? And it's like, clearly I'm the one thing the one common denominator about all those ups and downs right there is me.
Mm-hmm.
However, the one thing that I'm most proud about is I never gave up. Like every time I've fallen, I'm like, I'm going back up. And I feel like right now, all of those hardships, they made me the person that's made for this. Like when I dug deep in my heart after the Amazon stores got shut down, I walked through an exercise with a mentor of mine and he said, what's your ultimate authority? And my ultimate authority was I want to connect humans and I want to do it through events. And I need to have something about sales in there. So I was literally like event sales agency. Like I'm a human connection firm and we just do it by selling tickets, right?
I love that.
And the fact that like I chased money, when I chased money, i.e. Amazon dropshipping, it fucking fumbled and it dissipated my life. When I chose purpose, it gave me everything that I ever prayed for. I didn't start this company to, may have the success we've had. I started to pay back my investors. And I think I just keep coming back to the idea that when I chose quick money and easy money, I went after crypto. Where I got in trouble was I sold all these Amazon stores, and it was during the bull run. So I started leveraging crypto. So the money that I had taken from the stores, I got liquidated on FTX. And then when the stores were gone, then investors wanted their money back. I didn't have any money left because it all got liquidated. So I chose stores and then marginal trading like a fucking idiot to chase the quick money, and it crushed me. And then I stepped back, found out what my real purpose was, chased fulfillment and connecting people. And then I got all the things I was ever dreaming about having from the stores and crypto.
That is our story. And I think that is, I think that's the best way to build a business. It's the best space to build a business is, we talk about it all the time. We work all day.
Yeah.
But if it never ended up panning out, we'd be fine.
Yeah.
We'd be
Look, at this point, to your question about grit, I mean, I've been up and I've been down enough to know that, like, yes, I want my company to flourish. Yes, I want to change millions of lives, make millions of dollars, and do it with people I love. If for some reason God has a different plan, like, I can hang my hat on the pride of knowing we did our best right now, and whatever challenges may come, I'm not going to give up. Like, if I lose it all tomorrow, I'm going to get it all back times 3, you know? And each time I've lost things, and in hindsight, like, there's a lot of things I couldn't control. Like, my house burned down. I had zero control over that. Lost everything. After, right? Going to prison for trafficking drugs, I had responsibility in there. House burning down, not so much, right? My business partners, building collapsing and killing somebody, had no control over that. My dad dying of cancer, no control. So I think it's the way you perceive it. And in the face of adversity, how you say, you know what, like, I literally remember walking up to my house. I don't ever talk about this. I don't know why, but I walk up to the house because I got a call from my neighbor, said, hey, there's flames coming out of your living room, right? So we literally come around the corner in our car, and there's literally flames coming out of the side of my house. And I run up to the front door, and I'm like face to face with it. And I remember feeling it's warm, and I was like, 3rd grade, don't open a door if it's hot. It's like,
back in.
And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, what do I do right now? Everything I love and desire and I've owned and I bought is in there, and I see flames in the windows. And I just remember backing up, like, some guy over me. I took like 10 steps back, and I looked up at the sky, and I just said, okay, God, like, whatever. Like, I've been here before. Like, whatever you got, man, I trust you.
That's powerful.
And there's a really sense of freedom that comes in that when you're like experiencing something, like, literally everything you know is burning on flames, like, literally, and you just get to smile and look up and just say, I guess there's something better for me out there, and I'm in. And I think that's what grit means to me.
That's awesome.
I wish we could do this for another 2 hours. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. How can people support you? How can people reach out to you?
I appreciate you guys having me on. You can find me on Instagram at Brian Rand, at Event Sales Agency. And they can support me by if you meet somebody that wants to host an event and they're having a tough time doing it, or they have no idea where to start, I'd be happy to help them do so.
And check out Brian's podcast coming soon.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
Love it. Cool. Awesome.
Awesome.